Hi, this is Rance again with another episode of a podcast regarding Christianity. And I'd like to look at one specific verse. I encourage you to look at the whole chapter and read the verse in context. The verse I want to look at is found in Luke chapter 6. And at the beginning of Luke chapter 6, um, it explains to us uh, what Jesus was doing and in the public with some of his disciples, his close friends and followers. He was doing things that were contrary to the belief of the leaders of the church, so to speak, at that time. He was doing things contrary to the Old Testament, the Old Law, and he was getting in trouble. The um, leaders at that time were seeing what he was doing and were basically condemning him and talking amongst themselves, uh, realizing that here's someone that is a Jew, professing to be a Jew, and yet he's disobeying the laws that God's given him. But if we look closely, Jesus, he has the attitude that he is God, and he is the Lord over the Sabbath. That was one of the things that he did, is um, doing something on the Sabbath that he wasn't supposed to do. And basically, he was doing several things and that he shouldn't have, according to them, the leaders at the time. And Jesus' attitude was, this is my example. Um, I am doing these things to make a point, um, to make a to show all of you a principle that you actually have missed, that was the point from the very beginning, back in the Old Testament, back with Moses and the prophets. God has always intended the same thing, yet man at times has misunderstood the point of the laws. They just, well, I'm not sure what they were thinking, but they missed the point. Jesus comes along and he's giving them and us an example of what the principles really are. And the verse that I want to look at is a common verse that most everyone's familiar with. And it's found in Luke chapter 6, verse 31. It's a short verse, and there's a lot we can talk about that I'd like to talk about another time. The verse is, treat others the same way you want them to treat you. Very easy to understand, very simplistic. I guess for now, I want us to consider and keep in mind that this is in the context, looking back at just a few verses at the beginning of chapter 6, that this is the principle that Jesus is teaching. And this is what he's trying to get across to the people, his disciples. He was talking to his disciples and also a crowd at this time when he's speaking, and he says several other things in the same chapter. And he's making the point of how we're to treat others. Because in the Old Testament, or under the old law, that wasn't necessarily the case. God had given his people exceptions to how to treat others. It wasn't necessarily treating others um, the same way they would want to be treated. There were punishments that could be uh, given and handed out by people um, based upon what was done, or what was wronged. And Jesus's point is to each individual that we, if we're done wrong too, it's not our responsibility, it's not our job to retaliate or to um, exercise judgment, or place the judgment of what the punishment should be. And even more important than that, in our daily activities, how we treat people should be exactly the same way we want to be treated. And that's very, very easy to understand. We know, each of us knows how we want to be treated by others. We know if we're treated a certain way, if we like it or not. And that principle comes into play even if we're treated badly, and that is the actual context of this verse, and that's why I encourage you to read the whole chapter, especially right around the verse 31. If someone treats us a certain way, no matter what, Jesus has given us an example, and he's taught us that we treat others the way we want to be treated. Even if we've been treated by others in a negative, bad way, we don't return that to them. We treat them in a good way. And if we're honest with ourselves, that's absolutely easy to understand. We're very selfish people. We care about our own well-being, and it's natural for us to feel that way. And what we have to work on, what's difficult, is being considerate of others. And one way to be considerate of others is, no matter the situation, absolutely no matter the situation, we treat others the way we would want to be treated. Hopefully, everyone in the world would adhere to that. And then we wouldn't have a lot of the problems that we do. But there's not an exception to this. And I believe there's Christians that think that there are exceptions to that. That somehow we're justified. If we're wronged, we don't necessarily have to treat them the way we'd like to be treated. That's not the example we're given, and that's not taking into consideration the other person. It's very easy for us to think of ourselves, our own self-preservation, our own happiness. What's difficult is to consider others and to put others first. The way we do that is we think about, okay, how do we want to be treated? Even if we're treated badly, we're still going to treat others with kindness because that's how we would want to be treated. So hopefully you'll ponder upon this and meditate, and you'll read the chapter and take away from it the principles that we can find in the other verses surrounding Luke chapter 6 verse 31, and this will be an encouragement to us and help us in our daily lives as we interact with people. Because keep in mind, as Christians, the way we live our lives is a big part of being a Christian, is how we interact with other people. And two things to keep in mind. One, we're told in the Bible, in the New Testament, how we treat other people, in essence, is how we treat Jesus. We have that example of if we visit people that are sick, visit people that are in prison, or we don't visit those people, if we feed the hungry, don't feed the hungry, it's just like doing the same thing to Jesus. And the other thing to consider is, what if the people that we come in contact with in our daily lives, what if they're not very knowledgeable about Christianity? What if they haven't been exposed to very much spirituality or Christianity? What if they have had bad experiences with Christians? And that's definitely a problem. That there are people that, in the name of Christ, do things and conduct themselves in ways that absolutely are not Christ-like. So we don't know who we're dealing with. And so our example in how we treat others can have a positive impact upon them, especially if they've had negative uh, interactions with Christians, or they know very little about Christianity. This is the opportunity we have to expose them to Christianity, true Christianity, and to give them some information that's going to be helpful to them, that's going to give them a happier life. Thanks a lot for your attention, and I hope it's encouraging to you. And until next time, may God bless you. Take care.